The morning sky over New York turned from blue to an angry purple as massive ships appeared through rippling tiers in space. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Sleek vessels that looked like polished silver arrows, each one longer than the tallest skyscrapers below them. Similar scenes played out across every major city on Earth as humanity collectively held its breath. Tom Miller, a traffic controller at JFK Airport, watched his radar screen fill with impossible readings. "Get everyone on the ground. Now," he shouted into his headset, directing dozens of planes to emergency landings. Across the world, the same scenario repeated itself. The skies belonged to the visitors now. The first message came 3 hours after their arrival. Every screen on Earth, phones, computers, televisions, displayed the same thing. A golden symbol that looked like a crown crossed with a star. Then came the words, translated into every human language. "People of Earth, we are the Imperial Collective. Your world now falls under our protection and guidance. Remain calm, resist, and face extinction." The world's governments scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called. Military forces went on high alert, but in those first crucial hours, the visitors made no hostile moves. They simply waited, their ships casting long shadows over the cities below. On the third day, they sent their representatives. They called themselves the Imperials, and they looked almost human. Tall, elegant beings with metallic-tinted skin and eyes that seemed to shift color like oil on water. They spoke of peace, of technological advancement, of lifting humanity into a golden age. Many believed them. Why wouldn't they? The Imperials brought gifts, cures for several types of cancer, clean energy technology, and machines that could purify polluted water in seconds. World leaders were invited aboard their ships for diplomatic talks. They returned speaking of wonders beyond imagination. But not everyone was convinced. Dr. Robert Kane, a military analyst at the Pentagon, noticed something odd about the Imperials' behavior. "They're mapping us," he told his superiors, pointing to patterns in their ships' movements. "Not just our cities, they're scanning our resources, our military bases, our power grids. This isn't first contact. This is reconnaissance." His warnings were dismissed. The world was too caught up in the promise of a brighter future. Trade agreements were signed. Imperial advisors were stationed in major cities. Their technology began to integrate into Earth's infrastructure. Then came the change. 6 months after first contact, the Imperials revealed their true nature. Their ships' weapons, previously hidden, emerged like blooming metal flowers. The advisors activated devices that disabled military installations worldwide. Earth's own satellites were turned against it, now controlled by Imperial technology. The message this time was different. Your assessment period is complete. Your species has been classified as Grade C labor stock. Resistance is futile. Compliance will be rewarded with continued existence. Humanity learned what those words meant in the following days. Imperial forces established work zones, massive facilities where humans were forced to mine resources or operate machinery. Those who refused disappeared. Those who complied became little more than slaves, working under the watchful eyes of Imperial overseers and their robotic enforcers. The world's militaries tried to fight back. Jets were swatted from the sky like flies. Tanks melted under energy weapons. Nuclear missiles were intercepted before they could even leave their silos. The Imperials didn't even bother to hide their contempt anymore. Your species had potential, one Imperial overseer told his human workers. But you lack the discipline to join galactic civilization properly. This is your place now, to serve those better than you. But they made one crucial mistake. They thought breaking humanity's armies meant breaking humanity's spirit. They didn't understand that humans had faced tyranny before. They didn't realize that every human they enslaved was learning, watching, memorizing their technology and patterns. They didn't know that their greatest mistake wasn't enslaving humanity. It was giving humans a reason to unite against them. The seeds of rebellion were already being planted, Even as the Imperials celebrated their easy conquest, Earth would show them exactly how wrong they were about humanity's potential. And it would show them hell. 3 years into the Imperial occupation, Earth had become unrecognizable. The once bustling cities were now industrial wastelands, filled with massive factories where humans worked endless shifts under alien oversight. The sky, once blue, stayed a permanent gray from the constant mining operations that scared the planet's surface. In Mining Zone 47, formerly known as Colorado, James worked deep underground, breaking rocks with a laser cutter. His hands were covered in burns from the tool's backfire, but he didn't dare stop. The Imperial Overseer watched from above, its color-shifting eyes scanning for any sign of weakness or rebellion. Faster, the Overseer's mechanical voice boomed through the cavern. Your quota increased by 15% today. James gripped his cutter tighter, hiding his anger behind exhaustion. But his eyes never stopped moving, studying the Imperial technology around him. As a former engineering student, he understood more than they realized. Every day, he memorized new details about their machines, their power systems, their weaknesses. He wasn't alone. All across Earth, humans were watching and learning. In what used to be London, Mary worked in an Imperial processing plant. Her job was simple: maintain the quantum computers that control their automated systems. The Imperials thought humans were too primitive to understand their technology. They didn't notice her carefully documenting every error, every glitch in their systems. These machines are beyond your comprehension, her supervisor had told her on the first day. Just follow the maintenance protocols. But Mary had been a computer scientist before the invasion. Every night, she secretly wrote down what she'd learned, using paper and pencil. Technology the Imperials considered too primitive to monitor. She knew others were doing the same. The breaking point came during the annual resource assessment. The Imperials announced another increase in work quotas and a decrease in food rations. They claimed Earth's population was inefficiently large for their needs. In Work Camp 23, formerly Beijing, the news sparked something unexpected. A worker collapsed from exhaustion, and when the robotic enforcer moved to drag him away, something changed. Instead of watching in fear, the other workers moved to help him. Stand back, the enforcer commanded, its weapons powering up. Nobody moved. The enforcer fired a warning shot, but still, the workers held their ground. More enforcers arrived, surrounding the group. The workers looked at each other, seeing the same thought in everyone's eyes. Enough was enough. What happened next would be remembered as the first stand. 300 workers, armed with nothing but mining tools and desperate courage, overwhelmed the enforcers. They discovered something shocking. The supposedly invincible machines could be destroyed if you hit them in the right places. The rebellion lasted only 20 minutes before Imperial troops arrived to crush it. But word spread through the secret networks humans had built. In every work camp, every mine, every factory, people whispered about Work Camp 23. They had proven the Imperials weren't invincible. More importantly, the rebellion revealed something crucial. During the fight, the workers had damaged a control panel, causing all the enforcers to momentarily freeze. Someone had noticed that the Imperial technology seemed to suffer interference from the deep earth minerals they were mining. In his underground tunnel, James heard about it all. He combined this information with his own observations about their power systems. Mary, in her processing plant, added it to her growing understanding of their computer networks. Across the planet, countless others did the same. The Imperials responded to the rebellion with even harsher conditions. They thought they were tightening their grip, but they were really just proving what humans had always known. When you push people too far, they stop being afraid and start getting angry. In secret meetings held in deep mines and hidden rooms, resistance leaders began to form. They had spent 3 years learning their enemies' weaknesses. Now it was time to use that knowledge. The Imperials thought they had broken humanity's spirit. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Deep beneath the ruins of an old military base in the Rocky Mountains, a group of 20 people gathered in a hidden bunker. The room was lit by salvaged emergency lights, casting everything in a dim red glow. At the center of the room, Commander Jack stood over a makeshift table covered in hand-drawn maps and stolen Imperial documents. "We've confirmed it," he said, pointing to a diagram. "Every piece of Imperial tech depends on quantum communications. Their ships, their weapons, their enforcers, all connected through quantum networks." Dr. Emma, her face scarred from a mining accident, stepped forward. Before the invasion, she had been working on quantum physics at a top research facility. Now, she was the Resistance's best hope for understanding Imperial technology. "Their quantum network has a flaw," she explained, spreading out papers filled with complex calculations. "It can't handle interference from Earth's magnetic field. That's why they built those relay towers every 100 miles. The discovery had cost lives. 3 Resistance members had died stealing the technical documents, but their sacrifice had given humanity its first real chance at fighting back." Across the room, Bill, a former radio engineer, worked with stolen Imperial components. He had discovered that the minerals from the deep mines could disrupt Imperial communications when properly energized. The Imperials hadn't noticed because they considered the mineral deposits worthless. They were only interested in rare earth elements. "We've got cells like ours in every major work zone," reported Lisa, who coordinated their hidden communication network. They used old technology, paper messages, radio signals, and Morse code, things the Imperials thought were too primitive to monitor. The Resistance had grown carefully, slowly. They recruited people with key skills: soldiers, scientists, engineers, and workers who had access to Imperial facilities. Each cell operated independently but shared information through their secret network. In the medical bay, Mike treated injured workers while gathering intelligence. The Imperials never bothered to learn human biology properly, thinking humans were too simple to need complex medical care. This arrogance had created blind spots in their surveillance. Their enforcers scanned for weapons, Mike explained, showing how they had started hiding equipment inside fake medical supplies. "But they never check our medical waste. We can move small components between facilities this way." The breakthrough came when they tested their first disruption device. Using salvaged parts and deep earth minerals, they built a machine that could temporarily scramble Imperial quantum signals. The test lasted only 30 seconds, but in that half-minute, every Imperial system in a mile radius went dark. "This is how we start," Commander Jack said, laying out their plan. "We're not ready for a full uprising yet, but we can begin weakening their control. Small disruptions, carefully timed. Make them think it's equipment failure." Dr. Emma had also made another crucial discovery. The Empire's quantum network wasn't just their strength. It was their greatest weakness. Like any network, it could be infected. They began working on a virus that could spread through their system, using their own quantum connections against them. The Resistance moved cautiously, testing their new weapons in remote areas. Each success taught them more about Imperial technology. Each failure showed them what needed to be improved. They learned that the quantum disruptions worked best during magnetic storms, so they began tracking Earth's magnetic field activity. In their arrogance, the Imperials never noticed these small tests. They dismissed equipment failures as normal glitches. When enforcers stopped working, they blamed faulty programming. Their belief in their own superiority had blinded them to the growing threat. The Resistance knew they would only get one real chance at victory. They had to be patient, gather their strength, and wait for the perfect moment to strike. But for the first time since the invasion, humanity had hope, not just of survival, but of freedom. Underground, in hidden rooms and secret tunnels, the revolution was taking shape. The Imperials had taught humanity a costly lesson about oppression. Soon, they would learn an even harder lesson about human determination. The Australian outback burned under the afternoon sun. Above the massive mining complex, 3 Imperial ships hovered like metallic vultures. Below ground, thousands of human workers dug through ancient rock, supervised by robotic enforcers. None of the Imperials noticed the small changes in their equipment readings. They didn't pay attention to the slight fluctuations in their quantum network, dismissing them as normal interference from the planet's magnetic field. That was their first mistake. In a hidden chamber near the mine's old emergency systems, Anna checked her watch. She had spent 5 years maintaining Imperial mining equipment, earning their trust as a reliable worker. They never suspected she was also a resistance coordinator. "All teams in position," crackled a voice through her ancient radio. Modern equipment would have been detected, but the Imperials considered radio waves too primitive to monitor. Magnetic storm approaching. Time to show these aliens what hell looks like. Around the world, resistance cells waited for the signal. They had spent months preparing for this moment, synchronizing their plans with Earth's natural magnetic storm cycles. The Imperials, who saw Earth as nothing but a resource to exploit, had never bothered to study these patterns properly. At exactly 3:47 p.m. Australian time, the storm hit. In that same instant, resistance teams activated their disruption devices, amplifying the storm's effect on Imperial quantum networks. The result was immediate and devastating. Above the mining complex, the Imperial ships suddenly lost power. Their anti-gravity systems flickered, making them lurch in the sky. Inside the mine, the robotic enforcers froze in place, their quantum links severed. "Now," Anna shouted into her radio. Across the facility, hidden weapons emerged from supply crates and medical containers. Workers pulled out makeshift electromagnetic pulse devices, built in secret over many months. The revolution had begun. The Imperials were caught completely off guard. Their technology, which they had always believed made them invincible, was failing. Their automated defense systems were useless. Their quantum communications were silent. For the first time, they faced humans who were prepared and organized. In the command center, Imperial overseers frantically tried to restore their systems. But the resistance had studied their emergency protocols. Every backup system, every reset attempt, was met with another targeted disruption. "How are they doing this?" an Imperial commander demanded, his color-shifting eyes flickering with panic. "They're primitives. They couldn't possibly understand our technology." But humans had understood more than they knew. The resistance fighters moved with precision, using their knowledge of Imperial weaknesses. They targeted power nodes, communication hubs, and control centers. Everything they had learned during years of forced labor was now being used against their oppressors. The battle for the mining complex lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the humans had control. The Imperial ships lay crashed in the desert. The enforcers were destroyed. The overseers were captured, their advanced weapons useless without their quantum network. Similar scenes played out at other facilities around the world. Not all of them succeeded. Some resistance cells were discovered and crushed. But enough operations succeeded to shock the Empire. For the first time, they had lost territory to their primitive slaves. Anna stood at the entrance of the mine, watching the sun set over their first victory. They had captured Imperial weapons, ships, and most importantly, intact quantum technology that they could study. But she knew this was just the beginning. "Send the message," she ordered. Across the resistance network, the word spread. "Operation Thunderstrike successful. The Empire bleeds." In orbit, Imperial command ships received reports of the uprising. They had never faced such a coordinated rebellion from a lesser species. Their response would be brutal, but they had shown something crucial. They could be hurt. They could be beaten. Humanity had drawn first blood in what would become a war for Earth's freedom. The Empire was about to learn why you should never underestimate humans fighting for their home. The Empire's response came at dawn. Their ships darkened the skies over major cities, their weapons glowing with deadly purpose. The message they broadcast was simple: submit or be destroyed. In their command center deep underground, Commander Jack and Dr. Emma watched satellite feeds of the Imperial fleet's movements. The screens showed hundreds of warships entering Earth's atmosphere, far more than they had ever seen before. "They're angry," Jack said, his face grim. Operation Thunderstrike hurt their pride more than their military. The first strike hit New Delhi. The Imperial ships didn't bother with precision. They simply leveled everything in sight. Millions died in the first hour. Singapore fell next, then Cairo. The Empire wanted to make an example of these cities, to show the price of rebellion. But they had miscalculated again. Instead of crushing humanity's spirit, the attacks united them like never before. In the ruins of destroyed cities, survivors joined the resistance. In work camps and mines, even those who had stayed neutral before now burned with the desire for revenge. "They think they can break us with fear," Dr. Emma said, working frantically at her computer. "But they've given us something more powerful, a reason to fight back with everything we have." The resistance had anticipated this response. While the Empire focused on destroying cities, underground teams were hard at work. The virus they had developed using captured quantum technology was ready. They had only been waiting for the right moment, and the Empire had just given it to them. Tom, a former IT specialist, led the cyber warfare team. During the years of occupation, they had mapped the Empire's entire network structure. Every transmission, every command signal, had been studied and analyzed. The virus was designed to use the Empire's own quantum communication system against them. "Their arrogance makes them vulnerable," Tom explained, as they prepared to launch their counterattack. "They never imagined we could understand their technology well enough to hack it." The virus was beautiful in its simplicity. It didn't try to destroy their systems outright. Instead, it introduced subtle errors into their quantum calculations. Navigation systems would be off by just a few degrees. Weapon targeting would miss by small margins. Communication would suffer random delays. As the Empire continued their bombardment of Earth's cities, the resistance struck back. The virus was uploaded through captured Imperial terminals, spreading through their quantum network like wildfire. At first, the effects were barely noticeable. Then ships began to collide during simple maneuvers. Weapons fired at empty spaces. Orders arrived garbled or too late. The Imperial command was thrown into chaos. They couldn't understand how their perfect technology was failing them. They ran diagnostics, but the virus was designed to hide within their own error-checking systems. "Your technology is impressive," a captured Imperial officer had once told his human guards, "but it lacks the sophistication of true quantum computing." Now that same unsophisticated technology was bringing down their empire piece by piece, but the victory came at a terrible cost. By the time the Empire realized what was happening and halted their attacks, 1/3 of Earth's major cities lay in ruins. Billions were dead or homeless. The planet's surface would bear the scars for centuries to come. In their underground command center, the resistance leaders received reports from around the world. Despite the devastating losses, humanity had survived. More importantly, they had proven that the Empire could be beaten. "They wanted to show us hell," Commander Jack told his gathered forces. "Instead, they've shown us that they're not invincible. Now it's our turn to show them what humanity does when pushed too far." The Empire had hoped to crush the resistance with one massive show of force. Instead, they had only strengthened humanity's resolve and given them the opening they needed. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and this time, Earth would be the one choosing the battlegrounds. The day humanity launched its counterattack began like any other under Imperial rule. Slave workers marched to their posts. Imperial ships patrolled the skies. The occupiers had no idea that this ordinary day would become their nightmare. In the Resistance's main command bunker, Commander Jack gave the order they had waited years to hear: launch Operation Hellfire. Across the globe, resistance cells sprang into action. Years of planning, gathering intelligence, and preparing in secret were about to pay off. The Empire was about to learn why you don't cage humans and expect them to remain helpless. The first phase began with the quantum virus. Dr. Emma's team had improved it, making it more aggressive. This version didn't just create small errors, it took complete control of Imperial systems. Ships suddenly locked their own crews out of control rooms. Weapon systems turned on their own bases. The Empire's technology became their prison. Their quantum network is down in 60% of Earth sectors, Tom reported, watching data stream across his screens. They're completely blind in those areas. The second phase kicked in immediately. Around the world, hidden resistance fighters emerged from underground bunkers and secret bases. They wore armor cobbled together from stolen Imperial tech and Earth metals. They carried weapons that combined Imperial energy systems with human ingenuity. In what used to be the Siberian work camps, Anna led a massive prison break. The guards' weapons shut down, thanks to the virus. The prisoners, who had been secretly training for months, overwhelmed them in minutes. They captured 3 Imperial cruisers intact. "Remember your training," Anna shouted as her people boarded the ships. They had practiced for this using simulators built from stolen Imperial data. Now that practice paid off. Within hours, they had a fleet of their own. The third phase was pure human warfare. Guerrilla fighters struck from hidden tunnels and destroyed buildings. They used tactics learned from centuries of human conflict, things the Empire had dismissed as primitive. But there was nothing primitive about the damage they caused. In orbit, the Empire's mighty fleet found itself under attack from its own automated defense systems. The virus had turned their orbital weapons against them. Imperial ships were caught in crossfire from their own guns. Impossible. An Imperial commander screamed as his flagship's systems turned against him. "They're nothing but savages. How are they doing this?" The fourth phase was Earth itself. The Resistance activated massive electromagnetic pulse generators built in secret. The timing was perfect. A massive solar flare hit Earth's magnetic field just as they triggered the devices. The combined effect created a wave of energy that swept across the planet. Imperial ships fell from the sky like metal rain. Their quantum technology, so advanced and sophisticated, proved useless against the raw power of a planet they had underestimated. Dr. Emma watched the data feeds with fierce satisfaction. "They thought Earth was just another rock to mine," she said. "They never understood that our planet itself would fight back." The Empire tried to coordinate a response, but their communication networks were in chaos. The virus had spread to their quantum relays in space, cutting off their ability to call for reinforcements. For the first time, the mighty Empire faced something they had never expected: defeat. In New York, London, Beijing, and 100 other cities, humans emerged from hiding to reclaim their world. They found Imperial forces in complete disarray, their technology useless, their arrogance shattered. Commander Jack watched the battles unfold on screens across the command center wall. Reports of victories poured in from every continent. The Empire's hold on Earth was breaking. "Send the message to all resistance cells," he ordered. "Phase 5 begins now. No mercy for those who showed us none. Today, we take back our world." The Empire had brought hell to Earth. Now Earth was giving it back to them, with interest. The final battle for humanity's freedom had begun, and this time, the humans weren't just fighting back. They were winning. The final battle for Earth began in the skies over the Pacific Ocean. The Empire had gathered its remaining forces, nearly 1,000 ships, for one last attempt to crush humanity's rebellion. They hadn't come to recapture Earth. They had come to destroy it. Better to eliminate the entire species than let them inspire rebellion in other worlds, the Imperial Admiral announced across all frequencies. Earth will be an example of what happens to those who defy the Empire. But humanity was ready. The Resistance had transformed captured Imperial ships into a fighting force unlike anything the Empire had seen. Human pilots, trained in secret for months, flew with a skill and daring that shocked their enemies. Commander Jack stood on the bridge of the largest captured vessel, now renamed Freedom's Dawn. Around him, former slaves worked confidently at control stations they had once been forbidden to touch. All ships report ready. Anna's voice came through the command channel. She led the Australian fleet, her ships hidden beneath the waves. The Empire didn't know that humans had modified their vessels to operate underwater. Ground teams in position, Tom reported from his command bunker. The virus he had created now controlled most of Earth's orbital defense systems. They won't escape this time. Dr. Emma's voice joined in from her science station. Magnetic field generators at full power. Earth is ready to fight with us. The Empire struck first, their weapons turning the clouds into fire. But their attacks were met by a defense they hadn't expected. The quantum virus had evolved, spreading through their fleet like a digital plague. Ships fired at their own allies. Navigation systems sent vessels crashing into each other. From beneath the waves, Anna's fleet erupted into the sky, catching the Imperial forces in a devastating crossfire. Human pilots flew attack patterns that the Empire's computers couldn't predict. They had learned that human unpredictability was their greatest weapon. Their flagship is vulnerable, Jack shouted as he saw an opening. All ships, focus fire. The battle raged for hours. Imperial ships fell from the sky, while others fled into space. But the Empire's leaders refused to admit defeat. Their flagship, a massive vessel twice the size of any other, prepared to unleash its planet-killer weapon. "You leave us no choice," the Imperial Admiral broadcast. "Your species is too dangerous to exist." But at that moment, Dr. Emma activated humanity's secret weapon. The magnetic field generators, combined with the natural power of Earth's core, created a pulse of energy unlike anything ever seen. The Empire's quantum technology, so advanced yet so vulnerable, couldn't withstand it. The Imperial flagship's systems failed completely. As its massive hull drifted helplessly, human ships surrounded it. The Admiral and his command staff were captured, forced to watch as their mighty fleet was destroyed or driven from Earth's solar system. Victory celebrations erupted across the planet. In cities and villages, humans emerged from underground bunkers to see their first free sunrise in years. The Empire's work camps were opened, their prisoners released. Earth had won its freedom. In the days that followed, humanity began to rebuild. They had captured enough Imperial technology to transform their world, but they would use it wisely, remembering the lessons of their oppressors. Commander Jack stood with his fellow resistance leaders, watching Earth's first free sunset in years. "What do we do now?" Anna asked, looking at the recovered Imperial database. It contained the locations of other enslaved worlds, other species suffering under Empire's rule. "Now," Jack replied, "we show the galaxy what free humans can do. We didn't just learn how to fight the Empire. We learned how to beat them. There are others out there who need that knowledge." The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find simple slaves. Instead, they had created their own worst nightmare, a humanity united, technologically advanced, and determined to free every world under Imperial control. Earth was no longer just another conquered world. It had become something the Empire feared more than anything, a symbol of hope for all enslaved species and a testament to humanity's unbreakable spirit. The war for Earth was over. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin.